out of town. Okay, welcome out to the planning meeting, July 18th. First item on the agenda is public comment concerning any item that's not on the agenda. Do we got any public comment tonight? Everybody's here for an agenda item? You okay?
We are not on the agenda.
Right, that's what this time's reserved for. If you're not on the agenda, this is your time.
We want to talk to you about your trench. You're thinking about digging on in front of our property.
Okay.
We pulled out the easement distribution, and the easement is Daniel's irrigation on our side as well as the other side of the road. So it's the same easement as they have on the other side. You remember when you first moved in, you had a ditch that went across the front of our property, coming down to your fields.
Yep.
We had put a culvert on it when we moved in. That's what that used to be, the Daniels irrigation easement that went across there, that ditch is. So there's no difference between our side of the road, except all your customers are on the other side of the road. It just doesn't make any sense to put a trench on our side when all three customers are on the opposite side of the road.
So did you find that easement? I think
What?
you found that easement.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Was it registered on the property then?
Yeah,
Okay.
and according to the county, in order for you to dig that trench across there, you have to request an easement and register it.
Sneak behind you, I guess.
Yeah, and that was the issue with the other side, is because it was in the Daniel easement.
And the easement that's recorded on there is called, it's called a perpetual easement?
Also, it's non-exclusive, it's perpetual.
No, it's perpetual.
Okay.
So that, they don't have an exclusive one on the other side of the road either. The lady in the recorder's office says she's never heard of an exclusive.
She hasn't? That scares me, in the reporter's office, not hearing of an exclusive. That scares me just a little. I'm a little curious now.
We couldn't find one, we looked for several.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what, when we just redid Storm Trail, that's what they were asking for. Daniel Irrigation was asking for an exclusive easement. When they repiped
In Snowhaven.
the ditch that used to run through there, they put it in a pipe and they have an exclusive easement on a big portion of that property, but not through the town property because we have water line running in there too, but
We looked at Neil and Elda's property, we looked at Staffano's property, we looked at the easements on all of them, and none of them were exclusive.
good, that's good to know. That might help.
I do have an attorney now, and he says that you have to apply for an easement and it has to be approved.
Okay. I'm sure that your attorney and our attorney will be talking.
Yeah.
That's what attorneys do. Okay. Well, I don't think we're voting on this tonight, on anything that, I don't even think that's gone out. Has that been let out?
Well, it's been bid, it has not been awarded.
Has not been awarded yet?
So I've got one more meeting with them tomorrow or Friday to verify everybody's okay, you know, that there won't be any change orders, so that when there are, I can say, didn't we have that meeting?
All right.
And then the council has to make a final decision.
Okay. All right.
Has that guy decided for sure to hook up to your water?
I have not seen anything.
He says he hasn't signed anything.
I haven't seen anything he hasn't signed.
If you had, we'd be worried.
My last conversation, that was his preference unless it was going to cost a lot more. But that's a conversation, not anything in writing.
So why would you want to dig a trench if you don't have any customers on that side?
Well, if he's a customer, there's one right there,
Yeah,
which is the reason
Yeah,
we're looking
but-
at extending that one.
you have nothing like him. Why would you be digging a trench?
Oh, we'll have something before the trench is done. That's for sure. And town's not gonna expend the money unless, no, somebody's hooking up. Yep, that's for sure. Okay. Anything else?
Rex, you mind me asking you a question? I'm just curious why you're against that trench going in on your side of the road.
First of all, we have a 30-foot easement on the front of our property. 26 feet of that easement is taken up by the road, so we own clear up to almost the other side of the road, 2 feet from the other side of the road. And so that's part of that 30-foot easement. And we have a gas line that went through there that shouldn't have. You know, we talked to the same attorney and back when they put that in, and he said they can't put it in without requesting an easement. And we went on vacation and they stuck it in, that trench and across our property, put it in. We also, in that same area, we have the telephone lines, you know, the telephone, the old telephone lines. We have the electrical lines are in there. What else? It's just a crowd. If you were to dig a trench and put your line in, the irrigation line in, you'd have to sort through several other lines because you have to go deeper than they are. So you're gonna have to dig through them. And to put your line in the way it's planned, you're gonna have to cross the gas line 3 times. But tell me how that makes sense.
Well, I don't know how that makes sense.
And on the other side, you got a clean shot all the way along. And you have 3 customers on that side of the road. 3 signed up cost customers who already own the meter.
So I'm sure we'll be discussing that at council meeting for sure. Where all the utilities lie in that area. That's why we have the blue states called in to see what's in there.
Did Mountain Fuel ever mark that?
They came on the second go around. When I was up marking the second time, when I talked to Rex, the marks were there for Questar.
I think we've got everything now. It took a lot longer than it should have.
Yes, a couple of different ones were set out, so. That last one was an offset ticket, so. Put the marks out on the road so they could be able to measure off. So, you know, that line goes down, look at Pages on that side of the road. That house there, used to be Pages.
How far does that go roughly? Is that in 150 feet off of 3,000?
That must be close to 500, because there's a fire hydrant there.
Yeah,
And it's already on?
it's already on that side of the road.
I see.
Yeah, so we have that line coming down, serving that house with a fire hydrant down there, so I'm guessing it's about 500 feet. And then I think they went, I'm not sure on this, but I think they added 20 feet on beyond the hydrant for the thrust block on the end. Probably goes another 20 feet, but
We may find out.
we'll find out if we add on where the end is.
I'm sure it's not what we planned, whatever it is.
That's for sure. That's for sure, it never is. Okay, any other comments from the public, anything that's on the agenda? Good. All right, that takes us to item 2, Huntsman and Armstrong zone change. Robert, you wanted to address the planning commission?
I did, I just wanted to say a couple things and
Okay.
answer any questions. You want me up there or here, it doesn't matter.
You wanna, yeah, you better come up here.
Okay. So, I have been friends with Russ and Shirley since the 80s. And that's when I started well drilling up here in Heber. And I've known him for a long time. And occasionally, you know, the conversation would come up about his property. And so as it came up and he said, we're gonna sell it, the zone is RA5. And so when I looked into it, I thought, you know, it's an RA5, you can't build a house there. And so to do whatever we wanted to do with it, commercial zoning would be what we'd ask for. So we did an application. And I didn't realize the firestorm would start or whatever, and all that stuff. But also looking at the property lines, really weird. So the Mayer property was long and skinny and just a lot of stuff. And those guys said right from the start, those guys want to fix their lot. And so we worked with them and made their acre a square instead of a rectangle. And as I've learned more about the property, I know a lot of these properties, people have acquired these properties through their association with the Webb Brothers, which was Webb Brothers Trucking, a business. So we know that the Quonset hut was built by them in the 60s. And there's an application for commercial property on the Quonset hut. Nate Orton has got a tree business going on, so there's a business there. You know, what he wants to end up with in the end, I don't know, and I don't want to speak for him. But we know he's asked to leave the town, and I don't know if that's a way to get you to make his property commercial. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. Put words in his mouth. But, so in my opinion, this is not a residential area that we're trying to bring commercial property into. This is a property that has traditionally been in between commercial, or however you want to call it. Russ, as he's got older, has done less and less work, but he still tinkers around out there and he still works on pumps, and I talk to him every day about somebody's pump or send him out to somebody that's out of water. And so I hear a lot about changing the use of a property. When a property gets the use changed, that's when rules about that property change. And so I didn't want it as a continued use, as a junkyard or equipment storage or a drilling construction yard, whatever. That wasn't appealing to me, and I'm not bringing my drilling company to this property. If this property gets made commercial, will a drill rig get parked there occasionally? Probably, occasionally. But they're out in the field working, and they're not in the yard. And I have a yard in Camas, and that's where our drilling yard is. And so, that's my 2 cents worth. I brought some maps that show the easement to the highway. It shows the Wilson Humes easement right away, whatever the proper wording for that is. It shows Jesse's old lot lines and his new lot lines. So I don't know if you guys want to look at any of these or not.
You
Or
bet.
any of you guys. I brought pictures.
Right on.
I know that,
You going?
yeah, sure. Anybody else?
So this is that easement that was talked about up going up the highway?
Yeah,
Okay. And then there's Stephanie's going in there. Awesome.
so I live down on 3000 South. I feel like I'm a Daniel resident. I'm not coming in to do weird things in the town. I'm there as the loaders and graders and dump trucks roll out of the county shed every morning and drive up the road. I've got people with big trucks as my neighbors, and they are very respectful as they drive out and drive off to work. Now, the people who speed up and down there are a lot of little cars and stuff, and I think the real traffic issue isn't this property, but all the homes that are being built. I don't know how many are proposed across the street there and all that stuff, but, so I would like, if anybody's got any questions, I'd like to try to answer or give my opinion or whatever.
Thank you, Rob. Does the Commission got any questions for Rob?
Isn't that easement that runs through the north end of that property, isn't that really hard to deal with as a commercial property, Rob? How do you deal with that easement?
I don't understand your question.
This one?
The one
The
that
driveway?
goes to the residence,
Okay.
that cuts right through the middle of this property? How do you deal with that commercially? I mean, doesn't that make it hard to work with?
Yes, so here's my answer to that. If this property is zoned commercial, then I have an idea to, I don't know what the right word is, if it's make that better. Or, you know, I just don't know what the right word, I have an idea what to do with that. Do you want to hear what it is?
Yeah, I'd like you to share that.
Okay. So that easement is 33 feet. Is that the right word for that, an easement or right of
I
way?
believe that's, is it a right of way?
If it's mine, it's a 33-foot easement right away, both.
Both.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, so I don't know the answer to this question, and maybe you guys can shed some light on this for me. Is it an equal use, the owner of the property and the person who has the easement and right of way? Is that equally shared? Does one have more right to that than the other? Does the property owner have more right to that? Does the person with the easement or the right of way? Can anybody answer that question?
Probably a lawyer question.
It is. But I can give you a non-legal, non-guaranteed answer. Just from my understanding, the property owner can still drive over that, they can do whatever they want, but they cannot block the path. They can't do anything to impede. If you were driving over and left big ruts, then they would have a right to come back. So yeah, you can still use that, but
Both use it.
you can't do anything to impede their right to use that.
And we wouldn't ever try to do that.
So if there's ever.
No fencing, no gates,
Or
no,
something parked over it, or
No.
anything like that.
none of that. So equal use?
It sounds like you have more use as an owner based on that.
Like I say, that's just from what I understand from some past dealings I've had with easements. Where, you know, the owner wanted to be able to shut a gate so he could keep livestock in there, but he wasn't allowed to do that. You know, he could have fenced both sides, or maybe talked to the person with the easement and said, I'll put an automatic gate in, but those gates had to be open, you know, when they're using the easement.
So I know those guys had a question about their water line and driving over the water line.
It's all utilities underneath there.
And driving the frost down and all those things. So, if this property is made commercial, we had a thought to extend this one property line straight out to Mill Road, create a new driveway, 33 feet, the same width, and this is just an idea, the same width, give it to them, so that it would be their own property, not an easement, not a right-of-way across it, it would be their property. And put the utilities in it. And do all the work and fence and do it so it doesn't, I mean, it's as painless as possible. So we have it all prepared, so when it gets all, it's all ready to go when it's done or whatever. I got a map showing it. Would you like to see it?
I've seen it. It goes right through my brand new fence and right over the top of my irrigation pipes and the water meter. And I'd have to take out pine trees. It goes right through the middle of my lawn. And let me make a correction on that triangle. That triangle wasn't Webb Brothers. That triangle belonged to Grandpa Webb, which was Bill Webb. He had 3 sons, Ern, Gale, and Willie. He gave them 3 pieces of property. Tricia Steiner's house sits on Billy and Wanda's old property. The next house next to it was Gale's house, and then the mares are on Ern's property. That's what was there first. Then the Webb Brothers livestock came in, which was agricultural residential. That's why they were there. There was a livestock company, not a gas drilling company or a gas oil crude truck. So the Webb Brothers didn't come first. Those houses came first, and it was a farming community there on that corner. Grandpa Webb owned it, the whole corner. And at one point in time, the whole family owned the whole corner. Until V. Cummings took the shop away from Ern, and Sherry Suddy came in and bought the corner. And the little house over on 3000 South belonged to, I think it belonged to Latins, and it belonged to Roses, and now it belongs to Steiners. So Webb Brothers didn't come first, those little houses came first.
Shirley got her property from her dad, which was one of the Webb
It
brothers.
was Ern. And my question is, if that piece of property's been there since Uncle Ern died, which was in the late 80s, and Shirley and Russ haven't been married only since about 1985, 86, couldn't that be a lot of record and have a house built on it instead of sticking commercial in the middle of our residential neighborhood? Because that, if you do that commercial, it's right in the back of all of our residential backyards.
I don't know, we haven't been through that process to see if it was a legally created lot.
I know that at one point in time, Russ and Shirley's daughter contacted me and said, do you have a problem with me building my house in front of your house? And I said, no, please do. But I said, you gotta go to the council because it's an RA5.
Yeah, and she actually had came and talked to me a couple of times, and then they bought a house down on Big
Yeah, they
Hollow.
bought the Pizza Hut house down by the,
Yeah,
gravel
so she
pit.
never followed through, so we don't know if that was, she was working on seeing that, how it was legally created.
we would much rather see a house there than, because you said a construction yard first, and you said construction vehicles, and then you said pickups and drill rigs and semis. Then last time you said retail buildings, and Mark's got his property on hold, and I know you're partners, so.
Partners is not the
Well,
correct word.
okay, partners may not be the right word, but whatever. I mean, I just don't want to see semis through there, and I don't see my right-of-way easement changing its spot on the map anytime soon.
And that's fine. and we don't have any problem with it staying there. But it will be a shared use.
Well, I know that,
So
but at the bottom of the road, it's also residential because Jesse still owns the bottom part of that right-of-way easement, so commercial vehicles cannot come up at the bottom of my easement.
Right.
So my other question would be on this map is to divide it, the way you have it listed is you've got parcel A, parcel B, and parcel C, and you're saying parcel B would be a driveway deeded to the neighbor. But then what happens to parcel C? It's a half acre. I don't think we can create half acre lots.
Well, this is just an idea, okay? And so, as this has evolved, something's gonna happen with Nate Orton's. I mean, he's in the process of wanting to leave the town and sue to do it. And is that to be commercial? I don't know the answer to that, but it kind of seems that way to me. And as I read the town, I don't know if codes or ordinances or what they are, it describes where the town wants commercial property. And in my mind, that description describes this property on the edge of town, not in the middle of town, on the edge near the Highway 40 corridor or near the 189. It specifically says both of those. And I don't know who created the enterprise zone, but it's right in the middle of a pink map that's on the Daniel website of an enterprise zone. And I guess my feeble mind means future commercial zone where it says enterprise zone. So to describe the property like it is now, could be junkyard, could be equipment storage, could be construction yard. That's where I came up with construction yard, is how would I describe that property as it's used now? I didn't want it as a continued use. I didn't want it as a grandfathered, any of those words. I thought it should be zoned commercial property with 2 other applications next to it and businesses going on around. Mike Johnston was talking retail and all those things. We weren't on the same page when he was saying that stuff. I don't know the answer. Just like when Eric was asked, what are you gonna do with your property? Well, the code lists quite a few things, and he didn't have a final answer. And I don't have a final answer of exactly what's gonna go on there. But I will tell you that I'll follow the rules of a commercial property. And whatever those rules are, we'll follow. And this property would get cleaned up, it would be fenced and landscaped nice, and it would be an asset to the town instead of an eyesore. And we'll, you know, at that last meeting, not the last meeting, but the first meeting, I couldn't really say anything without getting everything turned around on me. And, but hopefully, seeing how we did with Jesse is proof that we will work with the neighbors for an equal solution. And that benefited both of us. I'm not saying that that didn't benefit us as well as them, but they gotta take all their middle of the road property, because the property is measured to the middle of the road, and move it into their backyard. They got a lot more physical, usable ground when that lot line.
It was a win-win for Jesse to have his property in the back of his house.
And they told me that from the start, that they wanted that.
Well, they've been working with Shirley forever, but Shirley wouldn't do it.
And Bob, are you suggesting that parcel C might be sold to Orton?
I don't know the option, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, it could be hooked onto them, it could be hooked onto those guys.
And then I get it that the residential area here with, Stephanie is not interested in this new easement right away. Is that the way you take it, that that's not gonna happen?
That's what it sounds like
It's
tonight.
not gonna happen.
It's not
At
gonna
the
happen?
at the bottom of that easement, of my easement, you have the mayor's irrigation hookup, you have my irrigation hookup, you have my culinary water meter, and you have a fire hydrant right there on the north side of that easement.
They could all be
That's probably all still on Jesse's property from this map.
No, it's not.
Jesse asked about,
Barely moves.
Jesse asked about a valve or something that was gonna be moved from his property to off of his property. And I don't even know if that's the one, but he asked about that. And so we wrote it up that, you know, whatever we gotta do to make that right, or he can access it, or whatever we gotta do, we'll do.
He's been talking about taking his irrigation valve out of the middle of that cluster. Right now, he takes a field pipe and runs it through the cattle guard that goes through that easement over to their house to a meter and runs it that way.
Yes, but if the parties are willing to move all of this and make everything reconfigured and it works, would you?
Well, it may work for you, but it doesn't work for me to make that new road up through my new fence
Well, I'm
and take
just
out pine
asking,
tree.
what you have to understand is our job in planning and zoning is to try and keep the zoning the way that it needs to be, but also it's to accommodate landowners if we can do
Well, I
that.
realize that. You also have a petition there with 105 signatures of Daniel's residents to use that road, and
Okay, my question is if that could all be moved and it was no cost to you, you still would not be interested?
I'm not moving the right of way.
Okay, that was my question.
So I have talked to people who signed that petition that weren't fully aware of both sides of the story also. And that, you know, there's two sides to every story. And I understand that. And I understand there's gonna be opposition to that. But I think that if the zone changes, we'll be having one discussion, and if it doesn't change, we'll be having another discussion. Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome.
Okay. So where we're at on this application is, it's been to the public hearing, you guys have heard the public hearing, we've had a few emails come in regarding it. So are we ready to entertain a motion to send this to the council with a recommendation from planning? And I'd entertain that motion.
I have a question first,
Okay?
which I tried to find the answer, and it's probably there, but and this is probably not the correct term to use, but horse trading between the non-conforming lots, is there anything in the code that discusses that?
It does. So it can become equally restrictive, but it can't. So in other words, that lot couldn't go lower, but it can't.
On size?
Right, on size.
So it's only size?
Yeah,
Okay.
Potentially it could be size and frontage, right?
frontage, yeah.
But here we don't have a frontage issue, we just have size.
We might have a frontage issue, because you're cutting the frontage of the one lot in half.
You know, it's still over the code, more than, no. Based on the scale of my thumb, so we'll caveat that, it appears that we don't have we're not creating a frontage issue with the current code. Oh, and we would change size. And I'm looking at the dimension next to it, and it's,
Well,
But
I'm
you're-
not
but
trying to
technically-
cause problems, but at the same time, we do have, it needs to be 350 feet wide at where the house is built. And so I'm just saying, maybe we should talk about changing the code sometime. point there, because I actually think that rearranging that lot line is a good thing, but I'm just trying to.
You mean for building a house on?
No, or for just anything when you're changing.
Yeah, I'm not, like I said, me and Kaylee didn't get to find out if that was, she didn't get that far on there to see. So I wasn't looking at septic setbacks or building setbacks. None of that, we didn't get that far.
What would be the deciding factor?
The deciding factor would be if the lot was created legally, and then if they could meet the current setbacks. But like I said, we never followed through with it. She had done quite a bit of chasing down the county, and
How would you find out if the lot was created legally?
you have to go back and look at when it was created, and you look at it. Typically, if you have a water record certificate, the council has backed those so far. They're not under obligation to do that, but if somebody has shown up with a lot that's smaller than 5 acres and they have that water record certificate that states it was created legally in the current zoning when it was done, they've honored that, the council has.
That arises a question for me, who holds this certificate?
The owner.
The county or the owner?
Owner of the property would have that certificate. And we've had some of them brought here, people have brought
The
that.
only problem is the county, at least when I did it, I had to turn that certificate in to get the building permit.
Did you?
Yep.
Because you're building on it.
And so, say for example, something happened and I had to rebuild, I don't have that says it was a lot of, I don't need it now, but I don't have that certificate. I did have it at one point.
Yeah.
So,
And that's been inconsistent through the county, those water record certificates, so. And that's what she was
Has a
trying
record
to
or
do.
not, yeah.
Yeah, she went to her mom and asked her if she had one, and they couldn't find one, so that's where it is. She had pulled, when it was subdivided, the original piece, and so she was building the history, but we never got to that point.
So the question would be, is the septic drain field off this direction? That's where the lot is, or, you know, there's some of those things that might be.
Oh, Jesse's property.
Yeah, Jesse's property.
Septic tank is right about 2 feet off of their current back porch back there.
Their drain fields probably just got on their own property. It probably wasn't on their property before, but now
It
it
goes,
is.
I think it goes towards Larry's house.
Yeah, I don't know, and that's maybe a good point.
That original property was probably deemed back in the 1950s. In the middle 50s, I would think, is about when Grandpa Webb did that.
Now, one thing that did get mentioned that is absolutely not true, me and Mark have not been scheming. There hasn't been any scheming, any plans, any backdoor deals, none of that.
Looks to me
Now-
like this is hard on Mark.
This would actually, we would share the easement, the driveway coming off the highway.
But if you go commercial, he can't use it. According to UDOT, he cannot use that right of way until Mark goes commercial and changes that driveway easement to a commercial. He has to pay to have that done with UDOT. So you can't use that right of way until Mark goes commercial and pays to have that easement changed.
I was never told that when I called them.
Well, I've been told that every time I've talked to Austin
Different
Tripp.
information.
Every time he's told me that
I
that's
didn't
all
ask
it
about
has to
Robbins
do.
yet, because it didn't matter, we just asked if we could.
So some right-of-ways,
Right now,
easements
the-
are usable and some are not.
Well, right now, that
works.
right-of-way easement is zoned residential agricultural easement because of the livestock trucks that's in there. So your trucks that are in there now with the crude on them are illegal, whether it's a continued use or whatever you call it, they're illegal. They are not residential, nor are they agricultural.
That doesn't have anything to do with it.
That's
the
what,
decision that's going on today.
well, no, but that right-of-way that's there and that he's using, if Armstrong uses that right-of-way coming off the highway through your property along that fence line, and for commercial vehicles, he can't use it until you change that right-of-way opening, that driveway.
That'll be something we have to work out with UDOT.
Yeah, that's something that you have to work out with UDOT. So just so you're aware,
We're aware
because
of
that's what
that.
happens.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up with Gary, if I may. Are you're trying to get this to where you're just seeing the possibilities of this lot. So what you're saying is you're trying to picture this as a building lot in some way.
Well, no, I'm just thinking we're moving lot lines around, and I don't have any concerns with this one, but I was just looking in the code and didn't find it, because there are a lot of other places that people may want to do that, and I just kind of wanted to know what the code says, what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah, so it's just the same restrictive. Can't be small.
If there was an application that came in on this property and they wanted to build a house, obviously they don't have 5 acres. What is the tool that entity would use to try and get this into a building lot?
They would be doing what Kaylee did. She went back and pulled all the history of the lots, when it was created. And then we can cross-reference that with, if they don't have a lot of record, you can cross-reference that with the county zoning at the time to see what the lot sizes was, what the frontage requirement was. And so we do have property in the town that can't be built on. People have sold it illegal, and there is property that we have that you can't build on. So,
Because it would be nice to be able to find a use for this property.
There was a Hicken kid that came to your meeting one night. He wanted it for horse property.
If you were thinking about houses there or something, you'd about have to think of 2 houses there, because it's dissected with the driveway. You'd have to figure out a house on one side and a house on the other side of that driveway, wouldn't you? I mean, it would be kind of weird to have.
I think it'd be a big enough challenge to put one house in there.
Put one
But
house
that's
in
what
and
I'm-
the pig pen on the other side.
You know, we have, what is it called when we override our own code and we allow something like this? What would that be?
It's called a legal issue.
we don't override the code,
Okay.
What's it called when
the variance.
4A?
That's what I was looking for, a variance. Thank
That's
you.
not where he's headed.
Okay.
The council gives variance, or the board of adjustments, if they're,
Yeah.
or the court.
What's it called when you have a 4-acre lot in the RA5 zone? Death sentence.
Is there a legal avenue that the property owner could go through to come up with a lot of record? It's like through some, like hiring an attorney and letting a judge decide that this was maybe recorded and should have been recorded, and
Oh, yeah.
maybe the deed or whatever's just been lost and needs to be replaced?
I don't think you'd have to go that far. I think if you go back and do the history on it, and you can see that it's clearly created legally when it was subdivided, you can meet the current setbacks, then I don't think you, I mean, if you say no, that's when they take it to court. If you say no, that's not enough proof. But again, even with a lot of record, the current town council is under no obligation to honor those. It's RA5 zone, they can hold you to a 5. So they're under no obligation to honor a lot of record certificate. That was issued when it was the county. So far they have, but they're definitely not under obligation to do that.
I do think one thing to think about is that the first meeting, it wasn't a public hearing, it was just a planning meeting. A lot of the things that have came to light, like Nate Orton's property, weren't out there yet. And so you need to look at the big picture of this property, these properties, and not just this one, the Lone Ranger, like I felt like in that meeting. there's a few other applications and things going on in this corner. than just this.
Neighbor commercial across the street. On both sides.
C2. C2, and they're rewriting that code right now, what's allowed in that zone. So, Public hearing, I think is. And that code amendment for Heber City. Okay, so is there any more discussion? Entertain a motion?
Nobody else wants to? And then, so I'll go one way and see if you guys vote me down. So, I'll make a motion that we recommend to the council that they change the zoning to commercial for this piece of property.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second? No second? Motion dies for lack of a second. Is there an alternative motion? Is there a motion to send it to the council without a recommendation?
I'll make that motion, send it to the council without a recommendation.
Okay, I have a motion to send it to the council without a recommendation from planning commission. Is there a second? Okay, I have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion.
I kind of feel like it's our job to give them some kind of recommendation. Especially after all of the time and effort spent by zoning planning. End of discussion.
Okay. Any more discussion? Seeing none. Oh, Scott's
I
up.
don't disagree with Kim, but somebody's got to make a motion. So I tried to get it started one way or the other, but if it's going to be silent, then I guess we can't.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? So do we have an alternate motion?
I'll make a motion that we recommend to the council that the commercial is denied. Commercial application is denied.
Okay. Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion.
I'd like to point out that there's two council members that aren't present that could also sway a vote.
That's why they need to be here.
So what I see is we're recommending that this be our commercial zoning map, which is kind of what it is now, because we don't want to put commercial anywhere in town, so.
All over.
Yeah, we just look like a big Dalmatian,
What was that? This, the triangle?
because we just basically let commercial happen wherever it wants to happen in the town right now. So, anyway.
But I'm like Mark, I think that's kind of, I mean, I'm not either side, but those other people that aren't here should have a say.
Well, we do have a recommendation through an email on one of the members, and they, I believe that that person,
I don't think, if they're not here, I don't feel that that should be.
So their opinion is only valid if they're physically here, not if they send their opinion. So you don't really care about it.
Well, they have
Well,
to
no.
vote.
Anybody can send an email.
I would be okay to hear the emails. I mean, I just feel like that those votes, either way,
Well,
email,
one of the absent people was 49.
then who's, so is that?
That's Pam.
Pam, and then there's who, Tom Rawlings. is
Tom
also
Rollins,
too.
and I don't know what Tom's name is.
See, so still,
Don't you vote if there's a
Well,
tie?
if there's a tie,
Wasn't there
Well,
a
looks like
tie?
there's a tie.
well, it takes 4 for a motion.
So 2-2 wasn't a tie?
It is a tie, but
The
it's
time,
not a
but then
record
it only
tie.
makes 3.
The problem with the email and the council has to vote to allow electronic to be held in the meeting, and the town hasn't done that. The county hasn't done that yet. There's a few municipalities that have, but,
Are we at the point of discussion?
yes, we're still in discussion.
So my comment is and has always been on this changing to commercial, is that it's fine to look and say, these 3 properties that sort of abut this, well, they do on this corner and they do here. That takes in, this is a very odd piece of property, so it has many sides. But that's only 2 aspects of this property that are now or will be commercial. The rest of these are residential. Those are people's backyards. And as much as you talk about how it will be landscaped beautifully and how it will be nice, which I'm sure it will be, I don't discount that. A commercial property generates a different kind of feel and traffic than a residential property. You just have to drive through town and see what some of the commercial areas have become. Look at that piece that they put in next to Canton City. So, you know, you're looking at a car wash and some, storefront type business. That's different in your backyard. I recently acquired a neighbor who essentially built his house in my driveway. Lovely person, delightful neighbor. But they generate noise. People make noise. They do things. And so what you're looking at is you're going to have a business parked in these people's backyards, coming and going, people slamming their car doors, people opening their business, closing their business. It generates possibly not more traffic than 10 houses, but we're not talking about putting 10 houses in here. We're talking about possibly, if there were a lot of record, putting 1 house in there. And that would generate that much life and that much energy going on in that spot, in these people's backyards. And I would ask those of you who are for this commercial, if you would want this going in your backyard. If you would want that, if you would want to say, okay, I want to have to discuss with this person every time his tenant leaves their lights on and they shine in my bedroom.
So my comment to that is, look what it is now. It's an absolute mess. It is a junky
It's-
eyesore.
You're talking about the piece on the road that everybody sees.
Yeah,
Nobody sees the back part.
and some of the back also.
Nobody sees it. It's a weed field. It's quiet.
But it's
It
also,
doesn't have
it's also
lights.
off their backyard. And one of those houses is Nate Orton's house that you're referring to.
No, that's Nate Orton's business. Nate
Right,
doesn't live there.
right. I know, but that's, he owns a house, is what I'm saying. One of those residents that you're referring to, the
No, I
majority.
wasn't referring to him. I
Okay.
consider him a commercial property.
So there's
I was
these guys'
referring
house.
to
and-
Jesse and them, and Wanda Webb's house has residents, Steiner's property, the 2 young
Larry.
men that I don't know, Larry
has horses.
Larry has horses in his property. Those are the people who are your neighbors.
If you were to add up the total acreage of these properties, of the Quonset hut, of the tree farm, of this property, I think it would be more property than the ones that you're referring to.
Yeah, and I'm not adding up property, I'm
Majority.
adding up people,
And I
families and homes.
I'm just thinking it's a junkyard eyesore now that I wouldn't want in my backyard. And I do have commercial going on. I have small business owners all the way around me.
But you don't have a storefront, you don't have a car wash, you don't have a dog grooming facility, you don't have a car dealership, I don't know if that can be commercial, I forget. But, it's that kind of a thing. You don't have a mom and pop restaurant that's gonna get popular and fill up with people who wanna come in. It's that kind of thing that you're talking about, and those businesses can be open until 11 o'clock at night, midnight if your tenant chooses.
Whatever the code allows, right?
It does, but a residence doesn't generate that kind of energy.
So,
Depends on how late the wedding comes.
Yeah.
The other thing
But
would
that's
be,
once now and then, that's not every Friday night.
so the other option with this property is a continued use as a construction yard with no rules.
It's not a construction yard, it's a junkyard with like 5
It's a
old
vacant
trucks that's
lot.
been sitting there forever in the back piece.
He's used it as his drilling business since the 80s, and it's dwindled down as he's got older, but he still goes out there and tinkers around.
There
Does business
illegally,
out
but
of
he's
there.
never had, okay, have you ever issued a business license on this property for Russ Huntsman Drilling? Because in the phone book, it lists his Heber address, 189 East, 300 South, as his business address. There's never been a business license
So
issued
it
on
does
that
not-
property,
It does
so
not
it's
have to
not.
be continued use if it was already an illegal activity.
Right, right, it's already been an illegal activity.
So the town doesn't have to grant a continued use if the activity was never in. So that's my feeling.
I don't know who was, I know you were. At the last council meeting, the council received some criticism for being anti-business. Whether that was warranted or not, doesn't matter. But when I come to these meetings, I see areas where you say you would like business to be. And then there's always a reason why it shouldn't be commercial, because maybe there's a neighbor or a, I mean, I just feel like we should focus on what are those areas, where do you want them, and start saying yes to certain areas and no to others. But it seems like, I'm going through this with my parents' home right now, and it's location. We're getting businesses all around us. I don't love it, but where it's located, Heber City seems to think that's where it should be, and it probably should be, because it's a busy corridor. And you're gonna run into residents, no matter where you decide you wanna put this commercial. So your question is, do you want any commercial, or do you want no commercial?
Well, I
And
think-
where is it wise to put it?
Do we have commercial?
Yes.
I think we've made it pretty clear that we're along Highway 40 and then over 189. And there is the possibility of commercial in the enterprise zone on the north side of town where it butts up to the county or Heber City. Anyway, next to the industrial area in South Heber.
But you see
So we've made
commercial
that
across
pretty-
Mill Road, you see it all around there, and yet it
But we've
doesn't
made
make
it pretty
sense to
clear
do
where
it.
we'd like to see the commercial go in. The problem we have with this particular one is we've got residents that are
They'll
all
go
around it.
there first.
And if you go down further down Highway 40 and you've got this same an application going on and you've got one resident, the circumstances change. And we can't totally ignore these people who've come in and got homes around these properties and say, I'm not for it. So, yes, I think that we've defined pretty much where commercial use is going to go on. This particular one is very difficult because it's such a mixture of residential and possible commercial.
And I don't think that the town has any business putting in commercial zones over the top of people who are residents. I don't want the town to be able to come in and tell me that they think that my backyard is the best place for their commercial zone and that's where they're gonna put it and I can just move. Because I'm already there, and when I moved there, it was zoned RA5. And so that is, if we go around changing zoning in people's backyards, we've broken faith with our neighbors. Because they bought their properties, they built their homes knowing what the zoning was. And if I go in and change that zoning, then I have violated that trust.
But if my backyard's on Heber Main Street, or my backyard is on a highway,
But it's
I
not,
have to
it's
accept.
in Daniel. And if it is
Not
on the
this one.
highway, it's still my home.
Once you're talking
So when
about
Stephanie,
backyard is highway
when
40.
Stephanie goes, when Stephanie bought that house, Highway 40 was a countdown. Compared to what it is
built that
now.
house, there was hardly anything but a few
Compared to
trucks
what
in
it is
there.
now. And I don't think
What year?
that Daniel has to make their decisions based on what Heber is doing, because Heber is a mess.
But Heber will influence that area.
Well, yes, they
You have to
will.
recognize that.
But
And
I
maybe
don't-
quicker than you think if
Yes.
Nate's disconnect
Yes.
makes it.
Well, but I still don't have to do it because Heber's doing it.
No,
You know,
but
it's like
it
your mom
is
used to
something
tell
to
you, if you
consider
jump off
as
a
part of the
bridge.
issue.
And then
I mean, nobody's going to Red Ledges and saying, Red Ledges, you need some commercial up here. It ain't happening.
But Daniel's Town says in their in their
We
books.
allow for commercial,
We-
that doesn't mean we
we
want to
won't.
be a business district.
And nobody said that, but you said in this, and this out.